fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. I'm Rosemary Lachance, an energy healer and spiritual teacher and therapist. And I am your host for this thought-provoking series, and am dedicated to providing you with food for thought information and answers to all modalities of alternative healing, spiritual development, animal welfare, environmental concerns, and so much more in the form of guest speakers who are experts in their fields. This series is recorded and will be shown in your area on your local public service cable network. Please contact them for dates and times. If you have a group that you think would be interested in what we have to offer, we are available to come to your group and teach. We'll give you our contact information at the end of the show. Please visit my website and click on my TV show, where you will find a wealth of information about this show. These shows are now available for you to watch free on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in Healing Outside the Box to make your choices. We are constantly adding new shows, so keep checking back. We are also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box. Please like our page for the latest information about the show. I hope you enjoy the show. And tonight, my guest is Carla Augustyn. Welcome, Carla.
Hi,
so
Rosemary.
Good to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
Good to
thank
be
you
together
for having
again.
Me. It
yeah.
is.
Last time we had breakfast together. That's the
Yes.
last we saw each other, right? The title of the show tonight is called After Death Communication. Let me tell you a little bit about Carla. Why do I want to call you Carla?
I know.
Carla is a spiritual teacher who loves to help people connect to their inner knowing so that they may live a more peaceful and fulfilled life. She is also the host and producer of Spiritual Invitation, a cable and YouTube television program also. Okay, so on our title of the show, what is after death communication? I'm going to ask you a first question, then I may go deeper into your background.
Okay.
What is after death communication?
After death communication is when our deceased loved ones contact us, send a communication directly and spontaneously without going through anyone else. So they don't go through a medium.
A medium, right.
All right, or they don't come through in a seance. Those are other ways. But after death communication is an actual field of study. It's been charted all over the world, the research that's been done on it. And so your loved one comes directly to you, and it's very spontaneous, and it's not random. They can't interfere in our lives, so there has to be a really good reason for them to reach out and communicate with us. So it's not random, and it's considered a very sacred event because when you think about it, our loved ones have passed on, and yet they're able to send us a communication. So we think of it as very special, and people tend not to share it with anyone unless they know they're in like company, unless they know that it's going to be honored. So typically people won't tell anybody unless they know someone is going to really respect it.
Yeah, because they make fun.
People make
don't
fun of
believe
it, they don't
yeah.
believe you,
Yeah.
or they tell you it's your imagination.
Yes, they do.
And when you receive a communication, you know it's real. It's not your imagination.
That's right. I had heard that the guardian angels bring them to us. So they have the okay from them to come and talk to us. Like you just said, they can't just come anytime they want. There has to be a reason.
There has to be a
and
reason.
they're okay with their angels. That's
yeah,
right.
and I like that really because I love angels.
Yeah.
So I always
yeah.
think of angels as our gatekeepers.
Exactly.
And if our angels think it's okay for someone to come through,
Yeah.
then they'll allow it.
Right.
Yes.
They'll be with him. They'll bring them to us. And
Yeah.
I've read that in a lot of books. Before we go on, I'm going to ask, because people are going to ask, I'm sure, me and themselves, how do you know all this info? How do we both know all this information? But especially you're our guest. How do you know all these things you're telling them tonight?
Well, I have had numerous after-death communications from loved ones myself. And I teach angel classes.
Good.
And for years, people were coming to angel classes specifically wanting to know about their loved ones, wanting to know, are their loved ones like their angels?
Right.
And do their loved ones communicate like their angels? And the answer to that is their loved ones do communicate like angels communicate because they're in the same place. So they're trying to get a communication back to us on earth. And so that's why it is very similar. And we do think of our loved ones as our angels. They're not true angels in the sense of the word, because angels have never walked the earth before. They were created specifically by God to bring peace into our lives. But our deceased loved ones, clearly when they cross over, are there acting like, I like to say they're part of our angel entourage. They're part of our team. So they are acting like that. So anyways, a lot of people were coming to class just wanting to know about their deceased loved ones. And it was uncanny how many times someone would show up and say, you know, I signed up for your class 2 months ago, and 2 weeks ago my mom died. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Wow.
So I began to think maybe there was a need for a class that specifically addressed deceased loved ones and their communication. And so I began taking classes on it. I did a lot of research and just began teaching what I was finding, because it is greatly researched. After-death communication is researched all over the world. So they go into remote villages where there's no TV, there's no internet, and they ask them the same questions that they ask people in London and California. And when they start seeing, kind of like the bell curve, and they start seeing the same answers and the same type of communication coming through, there's so much documentation that it's considered very legitimate research. And so they have to pay attention to it, because people are saying the same thing.
Yes, they do. You know, if people want to get in your class, you have the contact information at the end of the show, right?
That'd be great.
Yeah,
sure.
and then
I would love to.
You may have to start new classes after this. You know, 'cause
I would love that.
There's
I
so
would
many
love that.
people that are interested
Well,
in this.
people come and they share the most remarkable stories. I mean, I've learned so much by teaching the class and what people share. And it's always an honor. About, I would say in 3 or 4 different classes, someone has said, you know, I've never told anybody this, but they share it to everyone in the class.
That's great.
Oh, it's so special. I mean, it feels really wonderful, and I'm so happy that they feel comfortable to share it, because they know they're going to be believed.
It's nothing like being able to have someone to share those things with. You don't feel alone out there.
Right?
You know, when I was a little girl and I discovered little things, I thought, I must be the only person in the whole world that just found this out. And then a girlfriend would tell me.
I wish I knew you as a little girl.
Yeah, me too. Then I found a friend who had an experience like I did. And oh my God, now there's 2 of us. When you're little, you know.
It is very lonely, though. But
Yeah,
even as an
is.
adult, when you're the only one that thinks a certain way, or that you're open to different ideas.
Exactly.
So it's nice to be in like company.
It really is. So, all right. So how do you think it happens then? What do you think? They bring them here?
Yes. What happens is the reason why the communication can come through is because of love. Love is the energy, ongoing love and concern. And so energy can't be destroyed. So love lasts. I mean, it lasts even though a person has left this life and gone on to the next life. That love bond is still there. So the communication happens with those we love. It doesn't happen to the people. It doesn't happen with people we don't love. So it's not everybody you've ever known that died.
Oh,
you know, it's not that.
You'd be really busy.
You'd be really busy. It's not that. It's just love. And it could have been a stressful relationship. It could have been that you know, you had a parent that wasn't always there for you, but you knew deep down that they loved you. Or you could have been fighting with your sister and she died suddenly, but you both really did love each other. So we don't have to be perfect in the relationship, all right?
That's good to know.
It is good to know.
It's
very important.
Yeah, it is.
It could have been stressful, but if there was love that was there, then there is a possibility of a communication.
And then maybe they would want to tell you that they were sorry, that they didn't.
That does happen.
They weren't all they wanted to really be.
That can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen.
A lot of unfinished business that people have, like that movie Ghost Town. It was excellent. Unfinished business before they can move on, you know? So that's good. Yeah.
Right. It is good. And they very often will come when we're relaxed. So that's when. So
sure.
that's why so often it's right before we fall asleep, or while we're sleeping, or before we get up. During doing very repetitive acts like gardening, walking, swimming. I've had more people in class say they were sitting by themselves at their kitchen table drinking a cup of coffee, and that's when the message comes through.
Yeah, you know, that's really true. That's why they say meditation is good, to learn how to quiet your mind.
Yes.
Today's world is so noisy and so
It's,
crazy.
It's chaotic anyways.
Yeah.
Never mind, our minds are just buzzing, going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find my mind more busy now than ever was because of everything that's going on. So the need for the meditation is so important.
It
to
is.
learn how to calm yourself down and just think of nothing. And you're right. We have to get quiet. We have to find a time to get quiet. Just a couple times a day, you know. And
even just don't you agree? Just for regular, just for our own sanity,
Yeah.
not necessarily that we're going to get a communication, but just to calm down, just quiet the noise, just live in the silence. I mean, silence is so beautiful. I mean, if you're sitting by yourself at your counter or your kitchen table.
I've also heard people tell me they do their best thinking and they get their best spiritual feeling when they're in the shower.
I do.
Yeah, me
yeah.
too.
Does that happen to you too?
Yeah, one time I felt like a portal opened, you know, and all of a
that's
sudden,
cool.
it felt like this door opened, and I was about to be revealed some big secret about the other side, and I was thinking to myself, oh, and then it shut.
Oh.
Oh well, next time. But in the shower, yeah, right.
Yeah,
it
there's
does.
something
about
cleansing,
water.
something. I think
I think you're just concentrating on where you're washing too.
Yeah, you're very
think,
present.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're present, but that's where my ideas will come.
Mm-hmm.
I'll think of something for a class, think of an answer somebody's emailed me a question, and answers will come in the shower.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds really, really good. So, what's the number one question people should ask themselves?
Well, when it comes to after-death communication, the big question is, do you believe after the physical body has died that something lives on of that person? So either their essence, their spirit, their soul, their consciousness, their love energy. Do you believe something continues? And if your answer is yes, then you do believe in some sort of afterlife. We don't have to know what it looks like. We don't have to fully understand afterlife or heaven or the other side, whatever it is you're comfortable calling it. But if you believe something more exists past the physical body dying, then you believe in afterlife.
Right.
Yeah. So you believe. So there is a possibility. You do believe in that possibility. Why not get a communication? Why couldn't you? If they've continued on, if our
That's
loved
right.
ones continue on.
It's kind of confusing, I think, for people today because religions all teach different things about afterlife.
Yes.
And it's confusing. And then you get the other groups that are not religious but just spiritual, and they have different answers too. So I guess you have to do what works for you. And I know that people out there are confused about all that. And I could tell you what I believe, but then that's just me. You have to really find for yourself. And you know what? I think you have to see what feels good for you, what resonates in you. Okay, no matter what someone else says, does that resonate in you? Then keep it. If it doesn't resonate in you, keep going. Find something that does.
Let it go. Yeah, let it go.
But find something.
Yeah,
right?
Find something. And that's what I think I love about spirituality is that no one can tell you how to be spiritual.
Right.
And nobody can tell you you're doing it wrong.
That's a good,
right?
Very
and that's what
good.
I love about
Yep.
it. Like go on
It's
the
a good
spiritual
answer.
journey because you go at your own pace in your
That's
own
right.
way, and it's all what is important to you and what you think something means. So you're always supposed to be discerning information that comes your way. And I don't know about you, but I find I change my mind all the time. I mean, I could be into something and then a few years later, not so much. Or I used to believe one way and now I believe another way. And so that's our evolving. That's
right.
our own personal evolution.
And it says that we're open-minded.
It does. It's
We're not closed. We're always
Right.
open to new ideas
Open,
to
like
see
maybe.
what. Yeah,
maybe.
I like that point you brought up. Yes, spiritual. Nobody can tell you how to be
No one
spiritual. They
can.
can tell you how to be religious.
Yes.
And they can give you the rules and the
some
regulations and
rules
everything else.
there.
And if some people are comfortable, they need that. Makes them feel, But spirituality is I try to separate that so much in my show, say there's a difference between spirituality and religion.
Yes,
big difference.
There is a big difference. I mean, I think religion is great for some people because it's organized and it's community for people.
Yeah, that's what they like. They like the community.
They love the community feel of it, and that's a wonderful thing.
And some people I know, if they feel they go to church on Sunday, they put in their time, so now they're okay.
Yeah,
I put in my time. I came. I'm all right now. And they need that.
Right, and that's what people need. And then
if they
people
need it, you need it until you don't need it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. That's very, very, very true. What about people who say it's wishful thinking?
Oh, I know. All right. So this is the thing. It doesn't really hold water for a couple of reasons. And people will say, especially if it was soon after that the loved one has died, people will say, oh, that's just wishful thinking, or that's a grief-induced hallucination, or it's your imagination. But it doesn't hold water because we know that after-death communications come years and decades after the individual has died. So it's not wishful thinking if you weren't even thinking about them in the moment and then you get a message, which does happen a lot, especially with people who lost a parent when they were a child. The parent will come back when they're in need as an adult. So that doesn't really hold true. The other way that's interesting is that when the person gets the communication before they knew the individual died. So, so say Uncle Tony has been in a terrible car accident and everybody says, don't tell Grandma, and he's rushed to the hospital, and then he does die, and then someone goes to tell Grandma, and as soon as they walk in the house, Grandma says, Tony's dead, isn't he? And they'll say, how did you know? And she'll say, because he came, and he said to me, I'm okay, I'm fine, don't worry about me, it was my time, something like that. So that's not wishful thinking when the person wasn't expecting it. Another key way is when the people find out something they didn't know before. And so the only way they could know is if they actually got a communication. So people literally do find out where the money is buried. But it happens.
Speaking of that, I just something just came to my mind. When my son passed on, it was the most devastating thing in my whole life, okay? But he was living in Georgia at the time, so I had to go there with my daughter and my ex-husband, and we had to collect his things. And that night, I was in bed sleeping, or just laying there, and I was upset. And all of a sudden, a voice said to me, "Look in the vase. Look in the vase. In the vase." And I go, "What in the vase? There's nothing in the vase. There's a flowers in that styrofoam thing there, and it was fake flowers and all that." All right, I look in the vase. So I pulled it out, and underneath it was money.
Oh.
And my son had left, and he wanted me to tell that it was there. And he did it also with some towels. The same thing with the towels. He said, something said, look in the towels. You don't hear somebody say, look in the towels.
No, it doesn't come right.
You just get that feeling in that feeling,
it's
that
telepathic.
Urge. Yeah.
That's how it comes through, yes.
I feel like I should go look there. I feel like I should do this or that. And there was more there.
Really?
So, yeah, honest to God, I swear to God.
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah. Oh, I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do. We think alike.
I love hearing this, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could tell you so many stories.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you hear from him a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, definitely. It's cute things,
Oh,
different things, yeah, definitely. My daughter, too, yeah.
Yeah, with your daughter,
Yeah.
too, he checks in.
The symbol of the dragonfly
Oh, I love
is,
that.
for both of us, a knowing that tells us that he's around. And I've had dragonflies follow me all the way down the road when I walked in the country and all that, So that somehow he conveyed to us that the dragonfly would let us know that he was around.
Right. Well, it's something very distinct.
Yeah, and we
that
love
the
dragonflies.
dragonfly does.
Yeah, we love them. We think they're magical. Like a unicorn to us. It's a dragonfly.
They're becoming more and
beautiful.
more popular and very symbolic. More and more people are saying, 'cause it always used to be, and it still is, butterflies, rainbows.
Butterflies, another thing, yeah.
So very symbolic of life after death. But a lot of people are telling me dragonfly stories.
Yeah. Yeah, a butterfly to me is more of an angel. To me, you know, an angel of a being of some kind. But the other one is him, you know.
Oh, yeah.
This is what I wanted to ask you. Some people are afraid to hear communication from, and I don't know why that is, unless it's because of the movies that they make these ghost stories. They make it scary. They make beautiful ones too, but people are afraid. You notice that?
Yeah, people are, and I get a lot of people in class that will say, I don't ever want to see them. I don't ever want to wake up and they're there. But the thing is that if it's your loved one, they don't create fear.
Right.
So they are not going to spook you. They are not going to scare you. And I've had a number of people in class say they woke up in the middle of the night and there by their bed is a deceased loved one. And I always ask them, well, were you afraid? Did it startle you? And they always say no. And I think, this is my theory, all right, is that I think it's a lot like, you know, we hear so many stories with near-death experience. When people go towards the light, they feel very peaceful. I think when our loved ones come and visit us on this plane, they're bringing a little bit of that light with them. And so there's just peacefulness. So I don't believe that, I haven't heard of it, that we're, when it actually happens, that we're startled or scared or spooked. And they'll pick the right way to go to you. If they really think, if you wake up in the middle of the night and see them, that's going to startle you, they won't come to you. They won't come to you that way.
You're right.
You know, they'll come to you symbolically, or they'll come to you in a dream, or you'll feel a presence, or it'll be something very comforting to you. That's how they do come about. But you're right. I think with the advent of movies and television shows, it's depicted one way, and you know, it's made more sensational. But
I felt, not from my son, but this was before when he was still alive, touchings, like a nice, somebody just gently touched me, you know, just kind of petted me, and that was so nice, you know, really like, it didn't startle me. It was done very gently and very nice, you know.
And did you know who it was?
I think it was my grandmother, my grandfather, one of the other.
It was one of
I
the
love
other.
my grandfather. I didn't have him around much. He died when I was pretty young, but I just adored him.
That was
just
a strong
adored
bond.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice thing, the touch. And touch is actually not that common.
No?
No, it's not that common. So it's pretty special when people receive a caress, a hug, a kiss, touching like that.
Yeah. Also, people are afraid to know there's an afterlife. You know, that movie, Heaven is for Real, the little boy.
Yes, the little boy.
Wasn't that just a glorious movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I could have ate him up too. He's so beautiful. But the movie, remember when they were upset with him because he was telling people that there's a heaven, and they got angry? He said, "What are you angry for?" Because then, he said, because then you have to shape up because you know it's real, you know. But you know, they wonder. It's I don't know. People shouldn't be afraid.
Well, I think people are afraid of dying. You know?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And the dead try to teach us that a lot, that they're not really dead.
Right.
You know, they try to tell us that, like, I'm really still here. It's just different now. And, you know, and it's funny, too, with children, it's always said that always believe children, because children don't have the same veils, and they see things, they hear things. So if a child says, Grandma told me this or Grandpa told me that, you know, believe them. Believe what they're saying.
That's really important. If your child says that to you, you should encourage them. You should ask them questions and encourage them and just make it very pleasant for them.
Yes,
don't be afraid, and don't tell them, oh, that's just, you know, you're just making up a story.
Right.
Please, people, don't do that.
Yeah, just ask them questions, like a little conversation. Did he say anything else?
Right.
Did he want me to know something? What do you think of him? just like they're seeing somebody for the first time.
Right.
Just ask them what they're saying and not make a big deal out of it.
Right.
You know, just say, well, thanks for telling me.
Right. When we first come over, when we're children, that's why children see it so much better than us,
They
because we're
do.
fresh from the other side, and we still have the memories, and we're not afraid, and we still know. But as we grow older, we get caught up in the world, and we start shutting that down, and it's a shame. But
Well, we pick up on reactions very quickly.
Yeah.
So we pick up if we mention an imaginary friend as a child, or
Yeah.
this is what a deceased family member says, and people go like this, then we think, oh, I don't want to upset mommy, so that we shut down. And that's what happens.
I saw spirit. I actually saw the smoke. The thing went around me, and I tried to tell my aunt. Did you see it? You see it? And she said, "Oh yeah, honey, I saw it." And I thought, and a little child, I think I was 3 or 4. I said to myself, she didn't see it. She's
She
just
didn't
telling
see
me
it.
that to make me feel good. As a little child, I knew that. I said she's just humoring me, but I didn't say those words
You
because I
didn't say those
know.
words, but you knew.
I knew that and I thought, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm not going to tell them anymore because they don't believe me anyway.
Children, see, that's a children shut down. They're incredible. It happened to me too. I did see a spirit, and it did scare me.
Really?
As a little kid, yeah. I was very young. I was probably about 4 or 5, and it was very friendly. It was smiling, but I saw it, and it startled me. And I don't know if it was a ghost. I mean, it was just, it almost looked like the Michelin Man all in white. I mean, it was like huge. And I ran to my parents, and it's like, I saw the boogeyman. And they're like, oh, sure you did. And they were just not paying any attention. And then I felt foolish. And, you know, I wish they had listened.
Yeah.
You know, I wish they had taken me seriously so I could have talked about it.
Well, mine was in the form of a smoke, like smoke.
That's
all I
how
could
they
think
do
of.
appear like that.
Yeah, and it twirled around me, and it came up. Felt like it came from the ground and went around and went up around me. And I thought, magic. Oh,
Yeah.
magic. I loved it. I loved it. So that was really nice. That was my first experience of seeing a spirit in that way, you know.
It's funny, isn't it? You never forget, do you? When you have moments like that, when you've had an experience like that.
I could remember it just like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I could just see it in my head so clearly, you know. So you said they can contact us right after death, or they can contact us down the road.
Right.
And the primary reasons are for loved ones to contact us. I think we touched on that a little bit, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, if you have to group it under one umbrella, it's always to tell us to go on with our lives. So they do that in, they've broken it up into 3 different ways. It's either to offer comfort, reassurance, and hope, or to advocate on our behalf, or they ask for forgiveness and accept responsibility. You know, to bring us comfort, reassurance, and hope, they'll bring us messages letting us know that they did cross over. They'll let us know that they're okay, that they're fine now, especially if they were suffering before they died. They'll let us know, I'm fine. You okay?
Yeah.
You look good.
No, the microphone was coming.
It was kind of coming
Yeah.
over. So they let us know that they're okay. They let us know we have not lost them, that they'll be there for us when it's our turn, that they're you know, with us all the time. They're willing to help us. They tell us not to be afraid. They tell us that they're doing well. So always bringing us comfort and hope and just reassurance. People want to know a lot, and I think it's because of television shows and movies. Did my loved one pass over?
Yeah, that's
Which
true.
The majority of people do cross over. They do cross over. Very few people remain, when you look at all the people since the beginning of time, very few actually do remain behind as ghosts. Most people do cross over, but people do want to know that. So when they're getting a message, that's a very strong indicator that they did cross over.
Yeah, that is good, because the ones who hang around here, some of them don't really know they're passed on.
Right, that's ghosts. That's completely different.
Yeah, and they don't want to leave. That's another reason, and they want to hang around so they
Right.
can kind of suck up
Right.
what's here from other people.
Right,
and
so they're still here. So you
there's-
wouldn't get an
yeah.
after-death communication
No.
from them because they don't know they have not actually
Right.
crossed over.
Right.
Right.
So, and this thing with poltergeists and things like that, we might as well touch on it because they'll be asking about that. That's just frivolous kind of ghosts that did stay here and they want to be heard and they want to make noise and they want to cause problems, but they don't hurt us. They can't hurt us.
Right.
They really can't.
Right.
Like they portray in the movie. No.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
No,
no,
they
no,
they
no.
they can't.
No.
They can't. I mean, they can. They can cause havoc. You know, they can do certain things, but they can't. It's not that type of hauntings.
No.
That's in the movies.
No,
I mean,
they
can,
really exaggerate a
so
lot.
it gets very exaggerated. But ghosts, we should just tell to go to the light.
Yeah.
It's quite. I've read a book. I forget who she was. One of the shows was based on her, and she said, in reality, you just tell. You know, they'll take the whole hour of a TV show to get someone to cross over, but it really doesn't take days and days and days. You literally just say, "Go to the light." You know, you're dead. Go to the light. Go now. Your work is done here. Go to the light.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
You have to be as nice as possible, but
Yeah.
They say you can't give them too much encouragement because they'll just stay around.
They'll just stay around. Don't ask them questions. You shouldn't ask them questions. This comes up in class. You shouldn't ask them questions. You shouldn't engage with them because there's nothing good that they can tell you.
No.
They're ghosts. They don't know they're dead. So what good can they tell you? There's nothing useful they can give you as information. So don't encourage them. Don't talk to them. Just tell them to go to the light.
Mm-hmm. So how would you say that the people could tell the difference when someone comes, if it's a loved one or it's one of those?
Well, typically, when it's a deceased loved one, you intuitively know it. You know, and it's
like a warm feeling.
It's a warm feeling. You know that message is just for you. If there's something where you're uncomfortable, if you're not quite feeling right about something, that's not your loved one.
Right.
They just don't create that. A good example is in dreams. If you have a loved one that's passed, and you have a terrible dream, okay, like a typical dream where it's it's just chaotic and, just all moving pieces type of thing. That's a grief dream. That's not a visit. But when your loved one comes in a dream and they're smiling and they're happy and they say something positive to you, now that's a visit, okay? So it's very different. So the same thing, I would apply it to the difference between a ghost and a deceased loved one who's giving you a message. It'll feel really good.
Yeah, I think so. I think you always have to go with your gut feeling.
Yes.
If it doesn't feel right, if it scares you or makes you uncomfortable, then it's not a good one.
Then
yeah, it's just somebody.
Right.
But if it's warm feeling and nice feeling, then of course, if you're the kind that gets scared of everything, then it's nothing you can do much about it. But I mean, right?
Right. But exactly, and I think people can have ghosts in their homes, and I think that or buildings or hotels or whatever. I think that can happen. But your deceased loved ones, you'll feel very comforted when they do visit.
That's good. That's very good.
Yeah.
What do you think are the most common messages?
Well, literally what they say, and again, either we hear it or they tell it to us telepathically, or we just know. That's what people will say. I know what she wanted to say. Even if they appear in a vision and don't say anything, you just instinctively know, or you hear it just telepathically. But really what they say, typical ones are, I'm fine, I'm okay, be happy, enjoy your life, let me go, don't worry, thank you, I'm sorry, it wasn't your fault, there was nothing you could do.
That's nice.
Those are very powerful visits when they come and they accept responsibility for what they did, because so many people feel guilty, like, oh, I shouldn't have let him get in the car that night, or
Yeah.
I should have done more because he had an addiction, or, you know, I didn't meet up with her, I wasn't there when she died, or, you know, people feel such guilt, and we shouldn't, and they'll come back because we don't have that control over someone's, you know, dying, their time. So they'll come back and they'll say, it wasn't your fault. Like, it was my responsibility. I'm the one who had the addiction. I'm the one
that's good.
who had the problem.
They
I'm
woke-
the
that's
one
why-
who lived recklessly.
That's why they don't come right away sometimes, because they have to grow. They learn and grow on the other
They
side.
do, you're right.
And then when they finally realize what they did, then they have to come back and say something.
And then
how
that's
they
when
feel.
they'll come
they
back.
want to.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do have to heal. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people will say, well, I've never gotten a message. And it's, well, you may not, because we don't know what they're doing on the other side. It may be, just as you said, they have to
need some time,
heal
yeah.
from their lives. And if they did, if they were an alcoholic, if they were abusive, if they were, you know, they had major issues, then they have to heal from that. If they were just miserable their whole life, you know, they do have to heal from that before they can give us a message.
Well, my son, I can tell, you know, our audience this from my experience. When he first passed on, and he came to, actually, I went to him once. An angel took me to where he was, which was really, that's long to go into right now. But, and then the other times when I saw him, he was not settled. He was not, you know, and then time passed, and then he came again, and he was more settled and more peaceful. And then one of the last times that I've seen him, I was looking through this doorway into like a bedroom, and my angel, somebody was with me, and I know it was my guardian angel, and I said, I can't see him. He said, focus, and kind of scoot down a little bit and focus, and then look. And so I did it, and I looked, and there he was, sitting on the bed with his hands folded, with his back against the backboard, and he's smiling at me, and he goes, see, I told you, I'm with you. I told you, you didn't believe me, but see, you just couldn't see me. I'm with you.
Oh,
Wasn't that nice?
Oh, that is so sweet.
Yeah, and it was so cute, the smile on his face.
What a gift to get something
it was
like that.
It was.
Yeah.
Because,
It
was.
That is really wonderful.
Now, can you give us a couple of examples of what you've experienced? I've talked about me. How about you?
You know, I have had several of them. There's two I would love to share.
Okay.
One was with my dad.
Okay.
And he came through in a dream. And again, it was very peaceful. They'll come through doing something that they always did. It's always something familiar. So he was on his sailboat, and he was wearing his favorite shirt, and he's smiling big at me, and he says 3 times, Carla, don't worry and enjoy your life.
Oh.
And this was about 10 years ago. And the very next day, I mean, I woke up happy, and the very next day, my mom went into the hospital with a little heart attack, and it was kind of the beginning of her downward spiral. So the eve before, the very first time she went in the hospital, he tells me not to worry and to enjoy my life. And she really was ill for 5 years. And I was able, it was a gift, because I was able to think of that dream. I still think of that dream, and my mom passed 5 years ago, but I still think of that dream, and just in everyday life, because it's such wonderful parental advice. Don't worry and enjoy your life. It was very special, very special to me.
That is nice.
And another one that I had was with my grandmother. And I didn't actually like my grandmother that much. I mean, my grandmother wasn't always that nice to me. And so I never understood it as a little girl. I realize now as an adult, it's because she and my mom were always going at it, and they put me in the middle.
Oh.
So I didn't know that's what was going on. I just thought she was kind of mean sometimes. I mean, she wasn't abusive or anything like that. But I just felt like I was trying so hard to be a good little girl, and nothing pleased her, and she was always complaining and things like that. So I I didn't dislike her. I was just kind of indifferent to her. And so when she passed, I thought it was sad, but I, wasn't like, I was heartbroken because we didn't quite have that connection. I mean, I did know she loved me. I realized as an adult woman, she just had a lot of issues. And so anyways, in fact, when I would go see mediums, she would try to come through and they would ask, do you want to hear from your mother's mother? And I would always say, no, I really don't want to hear anything she has to say. So it was 30 years after she died. She came to me in a vision and I was so surprised. And so talk about taking a long time to heal.
Right.
And so she says to me, I'm sorry. And then she says, which I would never expect this grandmother to apologize. And then she said something I couldn't make up. She said, I'm sorry, it was my loss.
Oh.
I know, right?
Nice.
And she said, and I can make it up to you from here.
Oh.
And I said, well, what can you do? And she said to me, I can open doors for you.
Wow.
And it was very, very powerful. And so about a year later, it seemed like nothing was going right for me with my work. It seemed like a lot of doors were closing on me. I put in a proposal to teach somewhere and I was being told no all the time and I didn't know what was going on. And so I said, okay, Grandma, you said you can open doors. It was right around the holidays. I said, please start opening doors for me. And that January, February, I was busier than I've ever been with my work. I mean, it was nonstop. I had to tell the universe, slow me down, because it was just so much work. So she did open doors.
I wonder how they do that.
It's amazing how they can bring things our way.
Yeah, put thoughts in people's heads and things like that.
They can, and I think sometimes we're trying to open up this door and it doesn't want to open, and they're like, no, go over here, go over here. This is where you're meant to go. So I think they give us guidance as well, so things open up for us.
I think that if we try something and we keep trying, it doesn't work, we should stop. We shouldn't force anything. We should just stop and take a look at other directions. And I think that's what she was saying to you.
I think that's I think that is what they do, because that's
how they help.
That's how they help us in that way. And I really do believe when we're on our path, when we're doing what we're meant to do, that we have to do the work, but the universe kind of opens up for us. Doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It kind of helps you along. You can... the first time I stood up to teach, I'm such an introvert, and I was scared to death. I had to stand up in front of people and to start talking and to teach a class. Were you? It's so hard to believe.
Oh, yeah. But I never thought I'd do what I'm doing now.
No, I never thought. I was such a quiet person, but I felt so called to get out there and to start teaching classes. And I'm just like, all right, God, if you want me to do this, you have to help me. And, I did the work, I prepared, I put in the proposals, I showed up, I did my best.
I showed up, that's a big
It's a big one. Didn't back out. Yeah, show up. And people came, and the universe just helps you along.
Talking about that, we get messages all different ways. And one of them is through songs. One of them is through animals. And
I love
we'll
that.
talk about that later. I'd like to do more about that. But I remember not that long ago, I was trying to make a decision about whether I should call someone or not. Should I or shouldn't I? What should I do? I don't know. And I make a scenario in my mind, another scenario, and then all of a sudden, I go to my car and I get in the car and turned the radio on, and what song came on? Let It Be by the Beatles.
I love it.
I said, well, maybe it's just... So I went to work out in the gym, and I'm over there working out, and then the thought came back to me again, that same thought, what should I do? and over the speaker where they have played music, what do you song think came out of it?
No.
Let it be. I said, okay,
All right.
I got the message now. That's
I've heard it twice.
so we shouldn't ignore those messages. We get them
No,
in many
open
ways.
up to those. I tell
Yeah.
people, open up. Anything that's repetitive. So you start seeing the same numbers over and over
Yeah.
again. If you start hearing songs on the radio,
And they give you the same meaning.
give
Yeah.
you,
Could be the same song or
people,
another
you
song with the same meaning, but pay attention.
Right, pay attention to us. I get a lot of people that leave angel class and they tell me they hop in their car and they turn on the radio and there's a song about angels.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it is great.
It is great.
It's a nice little, I call them winks, I think. I think it's our angels, our loved ones, just winking at us, letting us know that they're there.
Right. Yeah. And our loved ones sometimes do it that way too, right? Is that
Oh,
what you just said?
definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Our loved ones in the same
Yeah.
way communicate.
Yeah,
Definitely
through a song.
repetitive, through songs, hearing songs on the radio, hearing your name, hearing their name.
Yeah.
You know, if their name is a song, hearing their name brought up is a way of them connecting. Numbers, sequence, you know, if it's their birth date. You know, just all different ways. It's like you're really not reaching when it happens over and over again.
That's right.
The first time it happens, we may think, oh, wow, that's kind of a coincidence.
Yeah.
I heard a song with my dad's name in it. But then all of a sudden, if you hear it two or three times in a day,
Yeah.
Then you know it's a little
Right.
something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Is there anything that we can do for the people who passed over?
That's a really good question. And what the deceased will say, which sort of surprised me, is that we can pray for them. They want our prayers. Like, prayers still help. We think of praying for the living, and of course they're living on the other side. It's different. But they say prayers help because they are healing on the other side, like we talked about
they are.
before. They do continue to heal. They do continue to evolve. The spiritual journey doesn't end. I always joke with people,
Oh,
you might as
no.
well start now
have a
because you're going
long
to be
way to
doing
go
it. Yeah, we
before
have a
we get to
long way to
heaven.
go. You know,
What people
along
think is heaven is not really heaven yet.
Right, it's different levels.
Long way,
and
yeah,
it
level,
takes
level,
a
level.
long time to truly become enlightened
Yeah.
and to understand everything. I think people think too, as soon as we die, oh, we instantly understand all the mysteries, and we don't necessarily understand everything all at once.
What I always said now, and I tell my kids about, you better work this out. I said, when you pass over, you're just who you are.
Yes.
You just don't have a body to maneuver
But you're your
anymore, and you're in a different
personality.
place.
Yeah.
But you're the same exact person. And so, if you kill yourself, when you wake up, you still have the same problem.
Yes, you do.
And you still have to come back and work it out and start right where you left off. So they have to know that it doesn't work
right.
that way.
You don't have a clean slate. If people
No.
think you can't be an awful person and then think, oh, when I die, it's
I get my
free
last
and easy.
rites and all
It's
that.
free. Yeah, it's free and easy. It's like it doesn't
No.
matter if your sins were forgiven. It doesn't. I mean, that's nice and that's great, but to be blessed before you die, but you still have to atone a
That's
bit.
right.
You do still have to
yeah.
for yourself. You're still responsible for
Yeah,
who you are
exactly.
and what you've done, and for improving. I mean, we're always trying to improve ourselves. And
I always say, when you pass over and you pick yourself up, say, okay, all right, everything's fine, and all, surprise.
right. Well, the whole life review thing. Let's
Yeah.
talk about
Oh,
how you
yeah.
were when you lived on Earth.
That's
Are you
right.
proud of everything that
What
you
would be
did?
the purpose of life on Earth if you
What would be-
if
yeah.
you passed over and everything was forgiven and you didn't learn a darn thing and you're just going on? That's no reason. You got
There's no right. There's no
life has
purpose
to have
to
meaning.
that. Life
Yeah.
has to have meaning.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
That's it.
Yeah.
So how do you pray for them? What do you do? Just
Literally, just pray. However it is that you're comfortable praying, that's what we do.
like
So
say help them.
yeah, just say I'll say with my parents, I hope you're doing well. I pray that you're healing.
So you kind of talk to them.
So I talk to them, and I'll pray too, like even just a standard prayer, you know, or I'll pray to God, like take care of my parents or help my parents,
Right, yeah.
you know, pray directly to God. And, you know, I hope you're doing well and I hope you're healing and take care of us. Of course, we should talk to our deceased loved ones anyways, you know, invite them along, you know, to talk to them, to advocate on your behalf, to have them tell them, isn't it, you know, isn't it exciting? I mean, I know him, you know, my son got married and he was very tight with my father, very, very close with my dad. And, you know, telling my dad, oh, you would really love Erica, you know, you would, you know, and I would say that to him, that kind of a thing, or look how the kids are doing now, you know, to my parents. I'll say to them, look how they're doing now. You would have, you know, you'd love to be with them. And I know they are with them, but just talking to them about that.
One thing I've read with many, many sources, if you're talking to loved ones, people who have lived here and passed on, you need to speak out loud because they can't read our thoughts. But if you're talking to angels or God or Christ, then you can do it in your mind quietly because they can read our thoughts. So always remember that.
I didn't know that.
If you talk to any of your loved ones, make sure you talk out loud.
You're talking out loud to them. And you can do this anywhere. You just look at a picture of them. You know, I have pictures in my house. I'll see a picture, and I always ask my parents to watch over my children still. I mean, I still give them jobs to do. I still expect them to be grandparents, you know, and to take care of my kids because they were really good grandparents. And so I do ask them that, but I also pray for them.
So what do you think is like the number one regret that people who have passed over have?
You know what they say is that they wish they said, I love you more. And when I heard that, I just thought, wow. And I thought, this is why they want us to get on with our lives, and this is why they really do want us to stop grieving and just go on and enjoy our lives, because our time here, it is eternity on the other side, but this life is very short. And they want us to enjoy that. And there's so many things in this life we can only do in this life. You know, it doesn't really exist in afterlife.
No.
And so and in afterlife, everybody knows everybody loves each other. Love is all there is. In this life, it's very important to say, I love you. And I learned that when I heard that. And so I started, I mean, I always said it to my husband and my kids, but I started saying it to my siblings and to my friends and nieces and nephews, and just, you know, whether it be in an email, like I love you, or, you know, when I'm saying goodbye, I love you, you know, goodbye on the phone. And it may seem a little awkward at first when it's someone you haven't done it with, but do it, because they say they just wish they did. And it's kind of, even though we say, oh, I know he loved me, he never said it, but he loved me, people wish they had said it.
So what do you think that some of the ways are that people do communicate with us? To give examples to our people out there.
Oh, yes. Well, the number one way, okay, I mean, when they look at throughout the world, the number one way is feeling a presence. That's the number one way that that is the most common way. Sensing that their loved one is near. It's not, I mean, we can think of our loved ones right now, but we're not feeling their presence necessarily. But you know when you're feeling them around you. And this is when people will say, oh, it's your imagination. But you know when you're thinking of them and all of a sudden it's like the air changes in a good way, that you just think that they're there, you know, and people will say, I can't explain it, but I do feel like my mother was there, my grandmother was there. I do feel like they were present with me. And that's very real, very real. If it happens to you, know that. It's very common way that it happens.
So believe your feelings.
Definitely trust your senses. Definitely trust your intuition. Believe that feeling, and, you know, really treasure it and acknowledge, you know, just if I'll get a feeling every once in a while. It's interesting. I hear from my dad. I really don't hear from my mom. But I'll just say, "Oh, Dad, I know you. I know that's you. I know you're around me right now." You know, acknowledge them so that they know that they're reaching you and that you are aware that they're present. So that's the number one way. Seeing them. You know, we talked about that a little bit, but definitely seeing them and exactly what you were saying. It can be any shade of gray. It could be just a wisp of like smoke of white. It can be the outline of a figure, but it's all gray or white, or full on, like you see me now or I see you. It can be half body, just head and shoulders that appear. It can be full by the, by the side of the bed. They just come to you. You're someplace quiet, and they it's very often accompanied with sound. So they will either say something directly to you, or they'll just smile, and you'll know what it is that they were saying to you. You'll just interpret it. You'll understand.
What about a fragrance? That's happened to me a lot.
The fragrance, that is a good one. That does, and it's actually not super common, but it does happen. What kind of fragrances? Like, they'll.
Well, I've been saying all of a sudden I smell like my father's pipe.
Yes.
What he used to smoke.
Yeah.
Just like I go, and when I try to sniff, it's not there. I don't sniff it. It's like. Then I realize it's inside of me, and that's how I know.
Inside of you. It's
not somebody standing outside smoking. It's just
no.
That's a no, because when you try to smell it, you can't smell it.
It's like it just kind of comes in,
and it's
right?
there,
and just sort of goes through you. Yeah.
And I've had like perfume.
Yes.
Smell, that kind of thing.
Yeah, their favorite perfume, cologne.
Yeah, and I've even had. A lot of my relatives used to smoke those Squillo little cigars. They call them guinea stinkers. They're stinky little cigars like this, and I've smelled that strong.
Oh.
So and it had to be, my uncles and my cousin, passed over. So I know, and once again, when I went to smell it, I couldn't smell it.
Then you don't.
No, you don't. It's just there.
Yeah, it comes quickly, and you might second guess yourself, but it happens a lot. The smell of florals. Roses especially.
Yes, I've smelled that.
That's
flowers,
that happens a lot. Very common for roses. It was a great story somebody shared in class that she and her dad didn't really believe in afterlife, and the dad knew that he was dying. So together, they didn't tell anybody else. They said, why don't you come back? The father was a woodworker, and he worked in the home his whole life, in the basement. And she said, why don't you come back as sawdust, in some way, and I'll know it's you. Well, what happened is about 3 weeks after he passed, her mother called her up and said, you're never going to believe this. I walked in the house, and it was as if Daddy was downstairs working, because the whole house smelled of sawdust.
Oh, wow.
So she knew that, and she said in class that she was glad she didn't get the scent, because she would have doubted it since she wasn't too much of a believer. But because her mother said it, she believed it. And they'll do that a lot. And I'm bringing up something important too, Rosemary.
Yeah, we're running out of time.
Oh, well, it's that when one person gets a message in the family, it's really meant for everybody.
Okay, folks, I hate to cut Carolyn off. I have more things about it. Maybe we'll have to do another show together in the future. Okay, sometime next year we'll do another show.
Okay.
It's more of this information, and I want to hear about your show. Okay, to contact Carla, it's Carla Augustyn, 203-988-1366, www.carlaaugustyn.com, Carla Augustyn 913@gmail.com. So please get in touch with this lovely lady if you're interested in her classes. And our information, as you know, is always the same. My name, phone number, 203-627-7966, emails, website, everything. So you can get in touch with that. So I don't want us to get cut off. So we're going to say good night now. So good night, everybody. Mwah.
Good night.
Good night. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Come this far, you understand.